Back to Tank contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Your latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, we're here. We're back for another From the Back to Tank Star Wars Rebels edition. After another long break, another break that's just taken way too long. So many people, I think that's what people are complaining the most about when it comes to Star Wars Rebels, is the delayed release dates. They quit. Yeah. They quit bitching about Rebels like oh, this is gonna suck. Now they're bitching that it's the delayed release dates are just retarded. I think I'm gonna join the trolls on this one. It's a little annoying.
But dude,
every other week and then 2 weeks, then a week. I mean, come on, let's just get a consistent effing schedule already.
Right? Consistency, that's a tongue twister. Consistency would be nice, but let's face it, everyone's actually now up in arms because Rebels is just that good right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good thing, right? I mean, hey, complain because they want to see it rather than complain that they don't want to see it, right?
Yeah. So you can't make all the trolls happy all the time.
That's right. So today we will be talking about the Star Wars Rebels edition, episode 12, Rebel Resolve. And I am in studio today with David, of course.
Hello.
And Dustin Lucas.
How's it going?
Now, but first, before we jump into breaking down this episode, let's jump in first to a little bit of Star Wars Rebels related news. I guess it was just released that the one and only Darth Vader will be returning to the season finale next week for Star Wars Rebels.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I think I know what's going to happen.
It does make sense. Not going into details, but when the cliffhanger they left it off, it makes sense that he's going to be there.
Yeah. So Darth Vader will return to Star Wars Rebels for the March 2nd season finale of the Disney XD series. The iconic villain previously appeared in October in a scene produced for the ABC rebroadcast of Star Wars Rebels Spark of Rebellion, where he was voiced once again by James Earl Jones. Other episodes have featured C-3PO, R2-D2, the disembodied voice of Yoda, Lando Calrissian, and most recently, Grand Moff Tarkin. That's a big star-studded guest cast when you think about it. All the old people coming in already in 12 episodes. That's a lot of original cast there. Set between the events of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, Star Wars Rebels following a raging bunch of a ragtag, not a raging. Raging.
I seriously thought you were going to say.
Oh, dude!
I thought you were going to say a raging bunch of assholes.
What's that, Dustin?
I seriously thought you were going to say a raging bunch of assholes.
Oh man, a ragtag bunch of rebels who band together aboard the freighter ship Ghost, even as the Empire strengthens the grip on the galaxy to hunt down the last remaining Jedi Knights. The season 1 finale, Fire Across the Galaxy, premieres Monday, March 2nd on Disney XD. So, without going into too much depth, let's not talk about last week's episode, or this week's episode, but what do you guys think we're going to see with Darth Vader? We're going to see more than a hologram, right? Than the HoloNet?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you know Star Wars mythos, you know that basically where they're going, that's Vader's territory. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to see him in person, which is actually...
Is he going to be wielding a lightsaber? Is he going to be or is he just going to be that dark, ominous presence, maybe in the background, or is it going to, or do you think is it going to be ball tickling, or is it going to be actually Darth Vader?
I think it's going to be kind of like what you said. He's going to be a background type of ominous figure, because would Vader really worry about? Would he really worry about him?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, we've had this debate time and time again about Darth Vader's importance to the universe of Star Wars, and is it going to take away to other characters, established characters in the world of Star Wars, if they make Kanan this important that Darth Vader has to communicate or speak with him? So, what do you think, Dustin? What do you think we're going to get? What do you think we're going to see?
Well, I think Darth Vader's definitely going to be there. I would think after the last time he was on Mustafar, I wouldn't think he would want to be back there, but maybe that's where they take the Jedi there to interrogate them and finally kill them. Maybe they just throw their asses in the fire.
Yeah. I mean, and that's got to be which I want to talk about that towards the end of the show today, but we'll talk about Mustafar a little bit more.
Yes.
On that note, let's just jump into the next segment of the show, which will be the actual breakdown of Episode 12. Star Wars Rebels review discussion, Episode 12, Rebel Resolve, directed by Justin Ridge and written by Charles Murray and Henry Gilroy. The synopsis is after broadcasting a message and the capture of Kanan, Hera is urged by Fulcrum to put the crew of the Ghost into hiding, but Ezra devises a plan to rescue Kanan from the clutches of Grand Moff Tarkin. Ezra strikes a deal with Vizago and learns that courier droids have been sending messages to and from the Empire due to the destruction of the Imperial Communications Tower. Meanwhile, Kanan is brought aboard Grand Moff Tarkin's ship, where he is tortured by the Inquisitor as the Empire hopes to gain more information about the rebels. All right. So let's just hit the obvious. I think the biggest mystery right now in Rebels has been built around one character, and that's Fulcrum.
Yeah. And I think this is the first appearance of Fulcrum, isn't it?
Yeah, I that's what I'm thinking. I think they've talked about him, if I remember correctly, but we've never seen any type of image. And we did finally see a glimpse of Fulcrum, but was it enough to figure out who or what or it was? Well, I don't think it really was, right?
No, I definitely liked how they showed Fulcrum, because it's very kind of like, remember in episode 1 when they showed Darth Sidious, and you just see the cloak,
right?
You just see the mouth, you hear the voice. That's what they were doing with Fulcrum.
So are we thinking this is a Jedi, Dustin? What do you think? Do you think this is a Jedi character then?
No, I don't think it's a Jedi character.
Okay. All right. What about you? You think it's too obvious? You think it's like they have the robe on? You think it's too obvious to be a Jedi?
Well, yeah, and the voice is masked as well. It's like something you use to mask the voice, and wearing a cloak. I still think it's Leia.
Really?
Yeah,
that would be an interesting take. If you find out it's Princess Leia.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, she would be young, of course, but Padme was like, what, 12, and she was queen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that was how the Nabooian monarchy was set up, though, was to have, like, for some reason. Did we ever get any backstory on that as to why the monarchy was set up that way?
I think it was set up that way just because of, like...
Was it? I kind of remember there was some information.
There was some information. I think it had to deal with, like, Padme's parents.
Oh, what, Dustin? What'd you say?
No, they go to school their entire lives to be politicians.
Oh, what a boring childhood.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna teach you how to backstab people from the time you know how to walk.
Yay!
Yeah. All right. So there are a few rumors that's been circulating, and there's a couple new ones. I mean, at one point they were saying that it might have been one of the clone troopers, one of the more famous clone troopers,
which would have been cool.
And now the most recent one that's really picking up speed, okay, is the fact that a lot of people are saying that it could be actually Ahsoka,
which would be cool.
Yeah. So I mean,
I like Doss's idea more though.
Because it's Princess Leia, Leia. But do you think she's way too iconic to bring her into the storyline? At this level. I mean, we've Dustin, when you were out of town on vacation, Dustin and I spoke at lengths about the entire Rebel Alliance and Princess Leia and when and where they should finally tie it in. I mean, are we at a place in the Star Wars Rebels story arc? Like, the series is going to go on for hopefully countless years. I mean, are we already ready to introduce Leia this early into the formation of the Rebel Alliance? I guess ultimately that's the question. Is it too early to bring her in? I mean, we're still, 5 years away from from A New Hope.
We're still 5
Yeah.
years. away
4
from
years?
New Hope.
4 years, I think.
But it would also explain why in New Hope Leia is so engrossed in the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
Because like it is one of those things that when you watch New Hope, Princess Leia is literally seen as this figure that leads the Rebel Alliance right away.
Yeah.
So, as I said, DOS's idea would be actually freaking cool. Now, the Ahsoka one would be interesting, but I just don't think it's gonna. I don't think that works because Ahsoka. Last time we saw Ahsoka in Clone Wars, which is part of the mythos, she walked away.
Yeah.
She left. She wouldn't come back to be a rebel leader.
What if it's something dark? What if it's something dark that brought in thinking that there's no more light in the universe, and she figures this might be a way to, this is her chance to come back and make a difference.
The only reason why I think she would come back, and when I first read about this rumor, the only reason why she would come back is out of revenge, because if she found out, like, let's say for example, everyone thinks that Darth Vader killed Anakin. No one knows that Darth Vader is Anakin.
Are we sure? Are we sure people know this? Or is that
Obi-Wan is the only one, even in the original movies, he's the only one that says that he knows that Anakin is Darth Vader.
Oh, that's right, because Princess Leia doesn't know, and no one knows.
Princess Leia doesn't know. Yeah. So I got
the idea that the Lars know as well. The Lars.
They know.
Who raised Luke. I think they obviously know. Because
would they though?
I always thought they knew.
I always just figured that Obi-Wan went to them, told them the story that Darth Vader killed Anakin, and this is Anakin's son.
Yeah, but do you remember how he doesn't want him to be a part of any of that? He doesn't want him to know Obi-Wan, and then he says that's what he has too much of his father in him, and Owen's all like, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, well, I always took that as basically that's going to lead him to his death.
Yeah,
and that's what Uncle Owen doesn't want. He doesn't want to see Luke die.
Yeah,
but like going back to like the Ahsoka thing, that's the reason why Ahsoka would come back is because she wants revenge on Darth Vader.
Right.
Because Darth Vader supposedly killed Anakin.
Yeah, and that opens up a whole ball of... See, that's a dangerous area, too. I mean, what do you want? Do you want them to... Because I would want them to know that Anakin is actually Darth Vader.
I don't know. I think that might open up into a really cool storyline where
It's
chasing Darth Vader.
That's basically Luke, though, for the first two movies.
Oh, that's true.
You know what I mean? Him thinking that Anakin was killed by Darth Vader and he wants revenge. I don't know. If they do bring Ahsoka in, I definitely agree with you, David. It would be interesting to see some type of emotional arc for a character. I don't want her just to pop in and be like, and be some mysterious character. If once she enters the world, she needs to be included because she was such an important part of Anakin's life and therefore an important part of the Star Wars universe that we would need to see where she's at emotionally. Okay, let's say she's privy to the fact that Anakin was actually Darth Vader, that that's him. I want to see how she's dealing with that. Does she feel betrayed? Is she angry? Does she think she can save him? Or let's say she doesn't, like you're saying, and it's more of a revenge thing. If they bring Ahsoka in, it's gonna be one of those things where you can't just bring her in. We already have our Rebels cast, and this is why it might get into a dangerous area. Are we ready to introduce another important character who you can't do a Lando with her? You can't just drop her in for a surprise episode because there's so much surrounding her, and she's such a pivotal part of the universe, specifically with Anakin, that you can't just, hey guys, I'm in charge, and then leave it at that. There's got to be some emotional drive behind her character. Would you agree with that, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right, so a French website has reported that Luciani Olivia will be voicing Ahsoka. So there's already a site in France saying that there's a woman for their version of XD on Disney over there, that there's already a woman being cast as Ahsoka, disguised as Fulcrum. According to the credits, it says Olivia will be voicing Ahsoka disguised as Fulcrum in the French version of Star Wars Rebels. Again, that could be a complete farce, but the fact there's already some French sites posting this, that's kind of what's really pushing this rumor around.
And that's the problem with the internet in general. I mean, like, we're going to get like these little leaks here and there. So this might be a legitimate leak, but
all right. It has also been speculated by many that the mysterious Fulcrum could be not only Ahsoka from the Clone Wars, but also could be Galen Merrick. Is that how you say that?
Yeah,
Galen Merrick from the Force Unleashed novels/video games.
Which would be cool, but unfortunately, Galen's a male, if I'm not correct, so that wouldn't make sense.
Why? Why couldn't it be a dude?
Because, especially since if you watch Fulcrum, if you hear Fulcrum, yeah, it's a distorted voice, but you could definitely tell it's a female voice.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Now, the one cool thing that I thought about besides Galen would be cool, but it's hard now because we've heard what Fulcrum sounds like. I was like thinking, well, what happens if it's Obi-Wan Kenobi?
It can't be. It's too. I guess it could be.
I mean, that would explain. Okay, the children of the Force. He knows about the children of the Force. He knew about Luke. He knew about Leia. So he knows that there's more children out there.
Yeah. Do we really want Obi-Wan involved this much? Because I always liked the idea that he was been out of the loop.
Yeah.
I always liked that because the fact that Princess Leia was seeking out him in New Hope, when the Rebel Alliance was when they were finally in the position to kick the Empire in the ass, they actually went out searching for him.
But it would explain what Obi-Wan's been doing this whole time. And you got to remember, the whole Children of the Force thing has nothing to do with the Rebel Alliance. Because the Children of the Force is just something that Darth Vader, only Force-sensitive people know about.
And also, would he be choosing to talk to Hera?
I don't think so,
what I mean?
man.
Like, what? You know what I mean? I would see it more or less that it would be like almost a Yoda thing. If it would be him reaching out through the Force. It seems more technical. So we'll find out. Hopefully, I think that's one mystery we may find out at the end of the season finale. I think it's one of those.
Yeah.
Is this Fulcrum isn't something that needs to be dragged out for another season? I think we'll probably find out during the season finale. My money's on that.
Yeah, probably right at the very end.
Yeah. Surprise, I'm Princess Leia.
And then Doss gets a cookie.
Yeah, and I'm in the slave Leia outfit for no reason. Whee!
Oh, dude, she would have been like fucking 12, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so wrong.
Oh, man. But it's okay. They're politicians.
Oh.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
All right, so opening scene. One thing that I really like, man, one thing I found that I see that I love when you take, like, yes, Star Wars Rebels is giving us some original scores as well, some soundtracks, but also they're taking some of the old score and kind of reworking it. And the first thing I heard in that opening scene when you saw the walkers is that's the music from Empire Strikes Back when the walkers are walking in on Hoth. The dun 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 dun, like that. And I'm like, dude, I love it. I immediately got amped when I heard that. Yeah, so that's one thing I'm really enjoying about Star Wars Rebels is the kind of the repurposing of some of the original score.
Yeah,
and making it unique.
It does make it very unique. I mean, like, and also it brings that nostalgic element to the series. I mean, like when you first saw the first quote unquote movie, the very first movie of Rebels,
Spark of Rebellion,
Spark of Rebellion, they did that with the Jedi music, and it worked.
Yeah. Now
we're getting to actually see more Empire music because it's more focused on, Tarkin. I noticed like last couple episodes have been more Empire centric.
Yeah,
we see the way the Empire works with Tarkin, the Inquisitor. Although we haven't seen who's that agent
Kallus.
Kallus. We haven't seen Kallus much in the last episodes, but it's focused on Tarkin.
He was still being bitch slapped by Tarkin verbally in this episode.
Yeah, that's right.
Tarkin's such an arrogant dick.
Oh, yeah, Tarkin's always giving him dirty digs. All right, so speaking of Tarkin and the Inquisitor torture Kanan. Now, I loved also another thing I liked is a little where he says, and now we will discover. It reminded me of A New Hope when he's talking to Princess Leia. And he's all like, and now we will discover the position of the secret rebel base.
Yeah.
So when he said, and now we'll discover, the true intentions of this Jedi, I was like, dude, I love it. Because it was the exact way he said it, the cadence, the voice, how he said, and now we will discover. And that's such that's such an iconic line when he's talking to Princess Leia.
And it's awesome because it fits Tarkin's character so perfectly. Yeah. It summarizes Tarkin's character.
Now, this is one thing that I thought kind of answered some questions, or maybe might have opened up questions. Again, we got to remember that, a lot of the stuff I know from the old EU, the old canon, but that's not canon anymore. So we got to kind of start rethinking how certain things. Now, okay. Now, is because the Inquisitor used the Force to activate a torture device that shot lightning at him, right? You guys noticed that, which was which was awesome. But did this answer a question that we had? Obviously, we already know from Dave Filoni in interviews. He said that the Inquisitor is not a Sith. He's just a dark side wielder. He wields the dark side of the Force.
Yes.
There's a difference. So, is the lightning, is that a Sith power?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is that a Sith power? That's a question I want to pose to some of the listeners out there. And if you guys don't know, tweet us at From Back to Tank and let us know if you guys are aware. Because I can't. I mean, is that a Sith specific power?
You would.
I've never seen Jedi do it.
No.
I know that for a fact.
And anyone that
because why didn't he just use lightning?
Yeah.
Well, it would drain him.
What's that, Dustin?
It would most likely drain him. I mean, doesn't it like weaken? Did it weaken the Emperor when he was, Force lightning on Mace Windu?
No,
really.
I don't. I always got he was pretending so that Anakin would defend him.
And you gotta remember
I can't take it, Annie. The Jedi taking over.
And you gotta remember when the Emperor faced Yoda, he used lightning.
Yeah,
and Yoda couldn't actually control the lightning right back.
Yeah, and he went all racial too. He called him his little green friend.
Yeah,
you're racist, man. He's got to go for the color.
Friend,
freaking Emperor.
But that would make actually sense that it's only the Sith that could actually do that.
Is that a Sith power? Obviously, if you're delving into different teachings of the dark side, you're going to learn different powers, right?
I haven't seen any other person use it.
So I'm wondering if that was Dave Filoni's own little subtle way of showing that this guy isn't, because we haven't heard in the show. We're going off of what Dave Filoni has said in interviews that the Sith Inquisitor is not Sith. We have not actually heard him say. The Inquisitor hasn't said, "Hey, by the way, I'm not Sith." We haven't heard him say this.
Yeah.
So maybe that's his own subtle way of showing that he's not Sith. That's a Sith teaching, or that's a Sith power. So I mean, because it would make more sense, right, for him to use his own lightning. Correct?
It would, and I didn't think about that when I was actually watching that, because why would if he is a Sith Lord, why wouldn't he use power specific to Sith?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's just a Sith power then, and that he obviously hasn't tapped into that.
And now that you mention it, I mean, if thinking back to the episodes in the past, Vader has the one scene where Vader is talking to the Inquisitor, he mentions that you are one of my Inquisitors.
Right.
So he's not a Sith Lord if he's one of Vader's quote unquote multiple Inquisitors.
It would be really interesting in the season finale if we kind of got some closure on that, like for the audience, to actually spell out that that there is a difference between him and Darth Vader in terms of Sith and just dark side.
He's still pretty powerful.
It'd be cool.
What were you gonna say, Dustin?
No, I'm just saying the Inquisitor is still pretty powerful with the dark side.
Well, yeah, because obviously. But I would like to say, I don't know. I'm thinking that we probably need to hear it, that there is a difference between the dark side and the Sith. Yeah,
you never see Vader,
Sith warrior. So there needs to be some type of in an exposition as they're fighting.
We might get that in the next episode, because they are going to a quote unquote Sith homeworld.
Yeah. Okay, so Ezra makes a deal by revealing that they are Jedi. Now, is this going to bite them in the ass, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a trope. I mean, it was right there. It was right there. It's one of the things that kind of irritated me about this episode was it's just plastered right in the face. Oh, this is going to come back.
Yeah.
This is going to come back.
Well, do you think they did it on purpose to show Ezra's how naive he is still? Or do you think that was just bad writing on their part?
I want to say that they were trying to show that this is Ezra being naive, but I'm sorry, the way that it was just written. This is the one time I would have to say that the writing really, really looked very amateurish.
Yeah,
like it's a pie in the face.
It rubbed me the wrong way a little bit too. Dustin, what did you think? Did it bother you? Like, what were your thoughts on that whole scene?
Well, yeah, of course it bothered me. I mean, he just straight out, Okay, even in the past episodes, you know why Hera does not tell him anything about the rebellion? Because he can't keep his freaking mouth shut.
He's a kid. He wants to brag.
He comes out and he says they're Jedi, and then he shows off. Like, he straight shows off and, like, almost drops a box on the dude.
Yeah.
And that's against Jedi teaching in the first place. You don't show off.
Yeah.
So now
he's
made
flaunting
this
the
deal.
big dick.
Yeah, he's made this deal, and he's going to end up having to do something really bad to pay this guy back.
Well, also, this is one of those instances where can you trust this guy? I always got the idea that this guy was, kind of all by himself. Not necessarily an evil person, but someone that would definitely cash in a chip.
Oh, yeah.
And not just once, but time and time again. Like, this is going to... I have a feeling this guy, it'll be blackmail. It'll be like, here, I need you to do this. Oh, and I need you to do this. And, your debt will be fulfilled when I decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, this guy, this character, I forgot, Zalargo, is it?
Valargo, I think.
But he's very reminiscent of Lando. And we all know that Lando is the type of person...
He's a bit more shady to be the lead. I don't see Lando betraying them or blackmailing.
But you do know that Lando will actually cash in a chip that is very questionable moral-wise.
Actually, you know what? I do agree with that. What am I talking about? He sold out Han Solo.
He sold out Han Solo.
And took his ship, took his uniform, and took his girlfriend.
It's his best friend, and he sells him out.
Dude, to me, that's the biggest punk ever, man. And I've said this before in other shows. I mean, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, he like pretends everything's okay. Oh, we're gonna find you. We're gonna find that bounty hunter and Jabba. And then he's in the pilot seat.
Yeah.
He's actually wearing Han Solo's uniform.
Han Solo's clothes.
He has his co-pilot. He basically assumed his identity. Took his entire life after betraying him.
I pictured Lando walking into Han's quarters, going, "Oh, this looks nice. Oh, yeah. He's not going to need this."
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, what am I talking about? Lando did the ultimate sellout ever.
That's what I said. I mean, this character is kind of very much like Lando.
Yeah.
Or the type of character that what a merchant or a smuggler would be like. So you know that he's going to cash it in, and you know it's going to bite them in the butt. Now, I mean, this could lead to good moments for Ezra, like good growth moments.
No homo.
But I'm sorry, it was such a pie in the face moment. Like what Doss said is like, it goes against. So Ezra makes the deal and then he shows off. That goes against everything that basically he's been taught this far.
I wouldn't have minded if he was able to persuade. I see. I did have an issue with that. First off, I don't think this is a crucial. I think they could have told a story. They might have said, "Hey, look, this is a catalyst for a bigger story down the road," and it was needed, to show. Kind of like, hey, they have plans to show that this character is going to manipulate Ezra down the road. I would have liked it better if it went the opposite, because I expected that to happen. What happened? It would have been nicer to see the opposite. For example, let's say he does show off, but instead of it turning into like a blackmail thing, which obviously it's going to turn into that, it would have been better if he was almost that he actually won him over because the Jedi are that iconic. And that it shows the power of what the Jedis can do, which is what Tarkin said last episode, that he was he was not scared of the Jedi, but scared of what the Jedi can do. They instill hope. And that would have been kind of cool to see a character like Valero, or whatever his name is. It would have been nice to see a character like that you would have expected to do something shady, rather becomes a part of their team in a way because of the Jedi name. That would have been more interesting to me.
Yeah.
And you probably wouldn't have expected it as much, but it would have given the audience, wow, like the Jedi are revered still. Even 16 years after they've been extinct and branded as enemies of the Empire, that they have this type of power.
Yeah. And it would have been less abrupt.
Yeah. All right. So once again, Chopper steals the show, in my opinion. I mean, man, at the ending when what's the big guy's name? Zeb's like, I like this droid.
Oh, you knew it was going to happen.
I knew it was going to happen. I didn't expect that.
But it was so mean that I'm like going, it's Chopper.
Oh, man. He straight murdered a droid. All because he was jealous. He didn't want another droid there. Oh my god, dude! I rewound that and watched and laughed about a dozen times, man, because I didn't expect it. Just like out of nowhere, he just fucking throws the guy out the freaking spaceship.
Yeah, without a care in the world. He's like, oh well, what are you gonna do?
Was funny. That was so comical, man. All right, let's jump into the real mystery side, the mysterious side of this episode as well. There's a couple, Fulcrum obviously was a mystery. Now we have Mustafar. Now we all know from I want to kind of talk about the old expanded universe as
legends.
well. Yeah, of Mustafar, because this is going to be an area now that they're finally jumping into that we have discovered. So far, in the time period that Rebels is taking place, it hasn't really messed up a lot of things quite yet, because there's never been anything in this area that's been done.
Yeah.
Necessarily. So we have Mustafar, which is an important planet to Star Wars canon.
Yes.
Now this will be the point. I mean, now let's break down where we've seen it in actual canon. Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
And then we saw it on Clone Wars, I believe. I want to say, wasn't there an episode with Cad Bane taking Jedi kids there? Yes. Remember?
And actually, that was the episode that had Tarkin in it.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I do remember that. Okay, so you have Cad Bane, and that's it, right? That's the only two instances in canon.
Oh, yeah.
That we've seen Mustafar.
They're two very significant points.
Right.
In canon.
So now we're delving into an area, because if you look at the expanded universe, Mustafar is filled with history.
Yeah.
But that history doesn't matter anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see what Rebels does with it, and if they will change anything drastic, or if they're going to stick close, because they have said that they'll try to stick close to the legends.
Yeah.
They'll use it in the Rolodex and pull it out as needed. And it's going to be interesting to see, because when Hera said, Kanan has heard of Mustafar's only mentioned that's the place where Jedi go to die, even in what we know, to me, that shows me they already have other plans for it.
Yeah.
Than originally what Mustafar was used for, because I scoured through the Wikipedia for Star Wars, and there's nowhere in the Wikipedia that says anything about Jedis dying on Mustafar.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like they already have new plans for Mustafar at this point. And it could also be the fact that this is a different time period in Mustafar, and maybe during this time they use it as a place to basically capture Jedi to.
Yeah.
But I want to go into this. If you don't mind reading, do you have that link up, David?
Let me bring it up.
Yeah, I would like you to bring up the Wikipedia article and kind of go through it. It would be interesting to kind of share with the audience as well as ourselves to kind of talk about the history of Mustafar and kind of, see what they could use and what they're probably not going to use.
Okay. Well, the beginning of Mustafar was a small planet located in the Mustafar system of the Outer Rim territories, forward of Rustan, between the Hydian Way and the Ninth Quadrant. It's a fiery volcanic world where lava was mined like a precious natural resource. Mustafar often served as a place to dispose of unwanted evidence, quality which drew Black Sun to the planet.
Which, Black Sun, not in canon no more.
Not in canon anymore. It also drew the Sith. It was on Mustafar that Darth Maul began his Sith training.
That is not canon anymore.
Mustafar
Unless we saw that in Clone Wars. We didn't see that. No, there's no way, because that's pre-Phantom Menace then.
That's pre-Phantom Menace.
So that's not canon anymore as well.
Yeah. And then Mustafar also served as the last capital of the Confederacy independent system, which is true.
Yes.
Which is true. Yep. And was the site of the Separatist downfall, which is also true.
That's still canon.
An event that shaped galactic history. In a duel that followed, Darth Vader fought his former master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and lost.
And that's still canon, of course.
As a result of which he was forced to wear a dark armor for the rest of his life.
Okay, now, there's also, going on the early history of Mustafar, which again, this is going to change. This episode may piss off some of the Star Wars purists, because there are a lot of people still that are kind of upset that the canon has been, reworked.
Yes.
Now, we have canon here back in the early history. Once a lush green world, Mustafar was home to a Jedi enclave built around 5300 BBY, which is before Battle of Yavin. For all you Star Wars geeks out there, probably already know that. So, that's the early history. It used to be a planet, and basically because of the war between the Sith and the Jedi, it turned into this planet, this fiery world.
I think Old Republic even actually visits Mustafar.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of history on this planet. A lot. So, I think this next episode, man, is an important episode just on that alone. The fact that they're going to a planet that's shrouded in mystery, and it has lots of history based on the old canon that's no longer canon. So that's one thing I'm looking for. I was very intrigued when Hera said, all I ever heard was, that Kanan said it was a place where Jedi go. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. When you think about it, let's think of what we know of the Force, okay? When something happens tragically, specifically with the dark side, it leaves a dark side imprint of sorts. And what happened to Anakin on that planet was a major thing.
Yeah.
That rocked the foundation of the Force in every aspect. He was the prophecy, right? So when he became this Dark Lord of the Sith, I'm sure it left a Sith blight, on that planet for all that scarred the planet for all time.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, there could be just this dark side presence that just looms over. So it would make sense that they would bring this place. This would be a place that you would find them returning.
Yeah.
Of importance. So it would be nice. Also at the same time, do you think Darth Vader would even want to be a part of this planet since it was such a life-changing place for this guy, for this person who obviously still has emotions. Just because he's in a mask doesn't mean he doesn't have emotions.
But this is the birth. This is the world that actually gave birth to Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So
it's an important planet.
While it's a traumatic thing for Anakin Skywalker, this is where Darth Vader was born.
Yeah.
So that might be why it's important to Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And not to Anakin.
Well,
Because you gotta remember, Obi-Wan always said Anakin and Darth Vader are two completely different people.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Look how emotional he was in Revenge of the Sith. Yes, he was still new at it, but you remember after he murdered all those people, he was crying?
Yeah.
He murdered countless people and was still crying about it. So, that's his downfall. His downfall is his emotions. It never changed. Even, yes, he was probably to keep it more in check as he matured as an adult and as a Sith Lord. But, that's ultimately what turned him back to being good, was his emotions.
Yeah.
So, regardless, this is going to be an important episode to the Star Wars universe because you're returning to an important planet. So let's see. Final thoughts. Let's start with Dustin Lucas.
Another
happy landing.
What?
Another happy landing? That doesn't sound like
another happy landing. No.
Okay.
I think the episode was overall pretty good. I like the space scene, like what is it? The Ghost.
Yes.
The Rebel ship. That thing is so awesome. It reminds me of the Falcon in a way.
Yeah.
And Hera's such a good pilot. I really liked how, and Chopper did steal the show again, but I love how he just decompressed the ship and killed a bunch of stormtroopers and was like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
And he ejected out like, peace out, bitches. It just flew.
Yeah, man. He's such a pimp.
Yeah.
Overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I would say probably I'd give it 2 minutes in the back to tank.
2 minutes, so it's a B, basically. A B episode.
Yes,
all right.
A B episode.
Okay, David, what do you think?
I think I'd agree with Doss that basically it is worth 2 minutes in the back to tank. It's not one of my favorite episodes by far because it's one of those things where I'm not too keen on cliffhanger episodes. When they ended it on to be continued, the episode was already slow enough where we were just getting hints and everything else throughout the entire episode. But overall, just like what you guys said, I think Chopper really saved the episode. Chopper to me has really grown as like one of the fan favorite characters. There is a lot of people that do not like Chopper, but the reasons they don't like Chopper is the reasons why a lot of fans like Chopper.
Yeah,
he's not very nice. Like just like what Doss said, he willingly just opened an airlock and sent a bunch of stormtroopers out into space without a care in the world. And then he pushes a droid out because he's not taking my spot. and like he's like so different from R2-D2. It's like such a refreshing thing. So I think that Chopper really brought the episode all together.
Yeah.
And I think with Ezra was just the downfall of the episode for me. It just sticks with me that why in the world would he actually flaunt being a Jedi?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to his character even.
Yeah. And you would think he would know better by now.
Yeah. So I know that this is going to bite them in the butt, but just the way it was delivered kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But overall, I am really psyched. I think the ending where they actually make the comment that we're going to Mustafar really psyched me up, because I'm like, okay, we're going back to Revenge of the Sith. We're going to Darth Vader's home world.
Yeah.
So we got to see Darth Vader. And that really has me psyched for the next episode. I think that the season finale for Rebels is going to be really, really awesome. I think that anybody out there needs to tune in next week.
All right.
If it's on next week.
Yeah.
It is, I think. All right. So you give it 2 minutes in the back to tank.
Bam.
I will give this 3 minutes in the back to tank. It's a C episode for me. It wasn't bad. I think there was some slow moments that I think it's always hard to come off a good episode. Like that last episode was so good, yes. And I think coming off that episode and the introduction to Tarkin again was just so well executed that it was going to be hard to beat immediately afterwards. And they've had about 4 solid episodes back to back since the season break.
Yeah.
So I knew we were going to get one C episode eventually here, and I rather it be this one rather than the season finale.
The to be continued.
Right. I think they got it out of the way, and now we can get ready for the season finale. There were some great moments, though. Again, I mean, anything with the Inquisitor. As soon as they introduce his music, that's his theme song now. It's just so epic, which is what you have to do with any of the villains of Star Wars. You got to give them that epic soundtrack. You have to. It's just a given with Star Wars. I really do like Tarkin. I mean, he wasn't in it that much, but the lines that he delivered was just so great. The visuals in this, again, the cinematography, the opening scene where the virtual camera, obviously it's not a real camera, but the camera frame was moving from Sabine to Zeb to Chopper to Ezra all in one swift motion. I like that. It gave it a cinematic feel. And I felt kind of like the old Star Wars movies where they're all doing, they do a lot of cut scenes where they go, these guys are doing this, these guys are doing this. They're on Endor, they're on the Death Star, where they keep going back and forth. And it felt kind of like that. And they cut to Kanan being tortured. I like the editing choices as well. It felt like Star Wars. And that's something that we keep seeing with Star Wars Rebels. We keep seeing that the decision makers behind Star Wars Rebels are continuing to do things that feel like Star Wars. But I have to agree with David, when it comes to the Ezra thing, I feel that they're good. If let's say they wanted to use this as a side story, a subplot of Ezra, that this Varalgo character ends up, blackmailing them. They could have gone about other ways. Like he could have been spying on them and seeing him do force training, something to, oh, wow, these guys are Jedi. Let's use that. Instead, you make Ezra look like a complete jackass when you've worked the entire season to kind of make him look like a smart kid. And he just willingly, hey, by the way, I'm a Jedi Knight. Let me whip my dick out and show you my size. Like, that's pretty much what he did. And I think that was probably, the blight on this episode. It didn't ruin it, of course. But overall, I mean, and I love the visuals, man. The fight when you're on, and the new hybrid Star Destroyer, whatever that was, that ship, there was like a mini Star Destroyer. I've never seen those before. Have you?
No, that was the first time. I think that's one of the special ones.
Yeah, I love it. I love these new ships and crafts they're coming up with. And anytime you're, for some reason, and Dustin, if you've noticed this, when they're on board any of the Imperial ships, the cinematography looks real. Like the stormtroopers that are walking, the Imperial troopers, the Imperial pilots, everything just looks immaculate on these ships.
That's why I love the space scenes.
Yeah, the space scenes just look so great, man. I mean, yes, Clone Wars was gorgeous in a lot of ways, but the animation in this in this one to me is superior to Clone Wars. Yes, very much. So on that note, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Dave Filoni's interview that he did about Star Wars Rebels. We'll be right back.
Don't go nowhere. More Back to Tank is coming right up.
Talking doll Kayla hacked to spew filthy things. Yeah, well, okay, the talking doll designed to be a kid's best friend may actually be a parent's worst nightmare. My friend Kayla is an internet-connected doll introduced in November that is supposed to be able to communicate with children via speech recognition software. Now, that's your first problem right there. It's connected to the internet.
Yeah.
Here, I have some audio of what she said. think this is
I
something.
want Tony Sable to fuck my cunt.
Oh, Jesus
Can she
Christ.
say the last name again?
Or, like, what about, fisting?
I don't think she likes fisting.
Oh, she doesn't? Oh, okay. Sorry, not interested.
How about I suck your dick instead?
We can negotiate. It's 50. If it's
Please fuck my cunt really good, you Chinese bastard.
The Rain Man Show, every week on Rain Man Digital. Go to rainmanwashere.com for more details.
We are back. Star Wars from the Back to Tank, the Star Wars Rebels edition on Rain Man Digital. If you ever miss any part of our show, you can always pick us up on Stitcher, Smart Radio. Just search Star Wars from the Back to Tank, as well as our website, fromthebacktotank.com, and rainmanwashere.com. So we are back for a few more minutes here. We're going to talk about this interview from StarWars.com that they did with Dave Filoni, which is the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels. David, why don't you go and take us into that interview and read that for us?
All right. What we got here is StarWars.com asked, I'd like to start way back in the time when Clone Wars was ending and before you knew what was coming next. What ideas did you have for the new series, and did those ideas feed into Rebels? Dave Filoni responded, well, we were still finishing Clone Wars when we started developing Rebels. We had a couple ideas about doing something with Rebel forces or Padawans on the run.
So even before they decided to destroy to retcon everything, they were already working on this.
They were already working on it. It seemed a pretty natural progression to do the story after Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, but before A New Hope. Dave Filoni said, I taught to think of... I was taught to think of Star Wars as one whole piece, one whole story, so that's the most important thing to me.
That's a nice statement there, and that's actually a good way to look at it. For all the writers coming on board, look at it as one ongoing story. I mean, because that's exactly what it is.
Remember what we talked about with Jackson Miller when he was in there? It's so tightly kept together that helped the continuity of all the stories.
Yeah.
StarWars.com then asked, when you say you were taught to look at Star Wars as a whole, is that something that you learned from George Lucas? Dave Filoni responded, oh yeah, everything I've learned about making Star Wars comes from George. I've been here 10 years now, and even though George hasn't been here these last 2 years, everything that I execute now is based on all our discussions, editorial sessions, and story meetings. That's how I still try to inform what I'm doing now on Rebels, with all the building blocks of Star Wars. At the same time, I think we have to stay open-minded and have an eye on the future and the possibilities of evolving stories and types of characters. That's why I wanted Sabine to be an artist. It was something that I hadn't really seen in Star Wars. StarWars.com then asked...
And it's something we probably could have lived without saying, honestly.
Yeah, that's not really that big of a deal.
I mean, why? Oh, Star Wars? Why don't you have a pedophile, too? I mean, come on. We haven't seen that in Star Wars.
That would be just so
He
bad.
touched younglings.
He touched younglings. Oh, that's so bad.
Man.
Let's see. StarWars.com also asked, I also imagine that for one thing, you had to be excited creatively. So you don't want to repeat yourself. And also, while fans might not realize in the moment, if they're watching things they've already seen before, it's not going to be as rewarding. Dave Filoni responded, it isn't no. It's amazing how often you do repeat yourself, even though you tell yourself you're not. He laughed and said, I think as a storyteller, I can't help it sometimes. I have a certain way of doing things. When I have a scene, I have a certain way I shoot. There are scenes that I shot with Anakin and Ahsoka that are very similar to the scenes I shot with Kanan and Ezra. The composition of the framing and everything, you do want to repeat certain motifs that make Star Wars what it is.
Of course.
But it's finding those scenarios and traps and making them original that becomes difficult.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things, especially after this guy did what? How many seasons of Clone Wars was there? 5?
5 plus the I guess you could say the secret episodes.
Okay, so you have 5-6 seasons that this guy, of course, after 5-6 seasons and you're doing a similar storyline, you're doing Star Wars. So you're going to start trying to, I can see you really struggling to come up with unique camera shots, unique things to do. Because yes, you need to give each character his style as well when you shoot that particular person, and I can see that might be a pitfall that many showrunners run into with new characters, giving them similar traits, shooting them the same. You got to work hard to make sure that every character feels a little different.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting though about this is the fact that I remember watching Clone Wars, and the one thing that always that seemed weird or off about me about Clone Wars was there wasn't anything nostalgic feeling about how Clone Wars was shot or animated.
Right.
Do you notice that basically this past season of Rebels, every single episode we've watched, there's always been that one moment where it's like, oh my God, that's like from New Hope. Like, remember in A Spark of Rebellion, the one scene that me and you, Mike, were like going, that was taken straight from Star Wars, where you see this clone, the stormtroopers just walk by the hallway and everything.
Uh-huh.
That was just taken right out of New Hope.
Yeah.
I've never seen them do that in Clone Wars.
No. You know what? Dave Filoni, I think no one wants to say this, but they are doing things differently. Obviously. They obviously doing things different. Yes, he keeps, everyone wants to, continue to jerk George Lucas off. And but there's a difference. They are doing things differently. That's the reason. That's the first thing people keep saying is they're going to go back to the roots of Star Wars. If they were doing things exactly like George Lucas was still, they wouldn't be saying that, because George Lucas didn't go back to the roots of the original trilogy. He never went back to that original feeling. Yeah. And it might have been because he was delving in the prequels, and that's fine. But they are doing something very differently than what George Lucas has done in the last 15 years, and that's returning to the roots of Star Wars and the original feel. So Dave Filoni and the producers behind this at Disney, they're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
A lot more than they actually want to say in this article here. But on that note, we do need to end the show for today, David. We don't have enough time to finish the interview, but you guys can go to StarWars.com and check out the rest of the interview with Dave Filoni. We will be back next week, same time, from thebacktothank.com, from thebacktothank.com, rainmanwashere.com. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
May the Force be with us.
Womp womp.
This is Stormtrooper 1, and if you've missed any portion of the show, you can always head over to FromTheBackToTank.com and listen to the show at your leisure. We're also on Stitcher, Smart Radio, Stitcher.com, Sir